Hello, everybody. This is Chip Paul for TrueMedX and for Chip Paul and for Cindy Paul. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what happened with this spending package, this spending bill, and how that's going to impact the hemp industry, because it will impact the hemp industry. It may not impact it in the way that you think. And again, there's going to be a lot of fear and uncertainty about this. So let me see if I can't clean some of this up. First of all, just some background. The Trump administration is super interested in basically rescheduling cannabis, marijuana. So there's no question about that. There's work being done, I know, by DOJ, HHS, and by people in the Trump administration to reschedule cannabis now as a Schedule III substance, which would allow it to be researched. Now, what happened with the Farm Bill 2018 is we, kind of let the cat out of the bag early with some unintended things. And so you have a lot of let's say hemp with a lot of THC in it that's out in the marketplace. And then you've had some, kind of yeehaw folks build some new drugs around this, which is, stuff that you really never see in a cannabis plant, but which they claim, is in a cannabis plant. And so that stuff needs to be cleaned up, right? And we really need to, if someone is selling a mislabeled, let's say hemp product that's got a bunch of THC in it, that's been labeled as THCa, well, that hurts the commercial marijuana market, right? That's a leak in the commercial marijuana market. And it's also a leak and hole in the regulatory market. So what is dangerous about cannabis? Well, again, if you're kind of like Cindy and I, nothing. It's been around for 12,000 years. It's been used very safely. But if you look at kind of pharmacologically, what's in it, what might be dangerous or could be or have some kind of safety concern or need to be regulated, that would be THC. So all of this is kind of, headed toward deregulation. But we needed to kind of, and again, this is unintended. This happened. Nobody wanted this to happen. Nobody went into this spending resolution and said, let's get rid of intoxicating hemp. Let's get rid of the hemp beverage market. But that's exactly what happened. Now, I would say people like Mitch McConnell absolutely went into this with the intent of sneaking something into this continuing resolution, this spending, government extension package that needs to be debated. So this needs to be debated in the full Senate, in the full House, in the light of day, with your input, my input, Federal Bureau of Narcotics input, OBN's input, everybody's input, but it needs to be debated in the light of day. It doesn't need to be snuck into a continuing resolution. It just foul, no, bad, shame on our senators, shame on our federal government, shame, shame, shame. Okay, so what does this do? That's what we all kind of really want to know. So if you look at the actual piece of legislation itself, this is something that's in 782, so section 782, and it's in the Agricultural, Rural Development, Food and Drug Administration and related agencies appropriations. So what 782 is saying is that it's basically going to define hemp, and this is the problem, is the way hemp is defined. And in Farm Bill 2018, the guys that were working with Mitch McConnell got a very broad definition. And, that's what kind of created the yeehaw hemp market. And he's pissed about that and wants to close that loophole. So that's what this is doing. But defining hemp only as the plant, Cannabis sativa L, Linus, and its parts, extracts, derivatives, etc., with a total tetrahydrocannabinol concentration, including THCa, of no more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. So if you live here in Oklahoma, that's already the hemp definition. It's less than 0.3% by dry weight. So that really doesn't change anything for us here in Oklahoma. That line was already established, and that line is established in our state law. excluding from the hemp definition. So this is going to take out hemp-derived cannabinoid products. These are marketed for human or animal ingestion consumption if they contain cannabinoids that are not capable of being naturally produced by the plant or that are synthesized or manufactured outside the plant. So this would be likely Delta-8, some of the other THCO acetate. Again, the cannabis plant has never made THCO acetate. That comes from a lab, and that is a drug. That actually was a human experimental drug back in the 40s. All right, what else does it do? Imposes a limit of no more than 0.4 milligrams of THC or similar cannabinoids with THC-like effect per container for products to remain in the lawful hemp category. So if someone's out there in the intoxicating, let's say hemp, beverage market, this pretty much does kill your business. That's enough. That's not enough to intoxicate, let's say, anyone. So that's a hemp beverage killer right there. That's going to be tough for a lot of these guys to overcome. Now, if they're just using CBD, they can do what they want there, but it's just limiting THC. Okay. And then it's going to provide a 1-year grace period. All right. So you've got a year before all this goes into effect. And that's kind of a nice thing, right? So no one has to change anything next month. But you certainly will have to work toward changing all of this within the next year. Now, I would guess within the next year, this is all going to change anyway. This needs to be debated in the light of day. You guys are not going to be happy about this. You should be calling, if you're in Oklahoma, Mullen and Langford, and screaming about this language getting inserted, whether you agree with this issue or not. Just because this is the way that this was done was horrible. I mean, it was, dead of night. I'm friends with some people in the administration, Roger in particular. He didn't even know about this. He didn't know they were sliding this in. No one did. Okay. So this happened in the dark of night, and, Mitch McConnell's a guy, but if you're here in Oklahoma, I guarantee our buddy James Langford had something to do with this, and likely, the other guy, but let's hope not. Okay, so this legislation is tied to the continuing appropriations and spending resolution that will basically provide funding for 2026. Okay, so that's why this doesn't really go into effect until a year from now. Let's see, what else have we got here? The spending bill includes a provision to prevent the unregulated sale of intoxicating hemp-based or hemp-derived products, including Delta-8 THC, from being sold online, in gas stations, and corner stores, while preserving non-intoxicating CBD and industrial hemp products. So what we do in TrueMedX, we'll be able to continue to do. If you are selling THCa or D8 or things like that, then, you're going to need to shift your business over to products like we make in TrueMedX, non-intoxicating hemp products. So that's exactly what we do. And, there's a few of us still left out there, let's just say. But, if you're worried about your business, we can potentially help your business with products. So there's still room for product here, and there's still room for very medicinal product here. Just it's going to have to not contain any THC, any intoxicating hemp. So the bill would require testing of hemp on the basis of total THC, including THCa, rather than just Delta-9 THC. The bill distinguishes between industrial hemp, fiber, grain, and seed uses versus hemp-derived cannabinoid products. And that's good because, again, there's a lot of that distinction needs to be made, let's say, and hemp needs to be regulated differently as a building material than it is as a medicine, as a consumable, something you put in your mouth. Several state and industrial actors are raising alarms that state-regulated consumable hemp markets, which permits edibles, beverages, et cetera, could be overridden by this federal language. So states that have built their own hemp infrastructure to some degree, Gee, now you've got a legal mess. So you've got the federal government coming in and messing with your own state-built hemp program. States win, states' rights always win, so I would encourage you to sue the federal government over this. And this is a very short-sighted, knee-jerk. I don't know how the entire Senate body could have agreed to sneaking this in, and then the entire House agreeing to approve it. And, I don't even know if Trump was aware that this was in there or not before he signed it. He just wanted to get the government open. So what does this mean for the hemp industry? Well, it means that many products currently marketed and sold, like Delta 8, like Delta 8 gummies, Delta 8 whatevers, like beverages, like THCa flower, and non-traditional, like they don't occur in the plant, cannabinoids, they're going to lose their federal hemp status. So you're not going to be able to sell those. You might be able to sell those in your regulated program, but you're not going to be able to sell those the way that you were. Companies may need to reformulate products to ensure, basically they're below that THC threshold. And if you're in the beverage market, you got to be below that 0.4 milligram, which is nothing. Farmers relying on cannabinoid extraction consumable product markets may face collapse or forced pivot to industrial hemp. So again, if you were growing for this market, like stronger THCa flower that had more THC in it, again, you might have to reconfigure your stuff. Regulatory and compliance burdens will increase testing, packaging, labeling, state versus federal conflict, and product shelf life may shorten as older formulations become non-compliant. There may be state and federal regulatory tension. I would imagine there will be, certainly with states that have built out a hemp program, a regulatory program, that this is going to squish or overwrite. And so you're going to have that same federal versus state. Listen, until we have this complete debate at the federal level, this crap will continue to happen. And hopefully this is enough to have the debate at the federal level. The 1 year grace period gives us time to kind of, if you're in this business, and we're not really in this business, but I know a lot of you guys are, to adapt your business and begin to make changes. This was not widely debated at all as a standalone hemp policy and needs to be. So it was snuck in as a hidden clause and a rider in the spending bill. There's already lobbying to get rid of this. Okay, so you've already got some House lobbying to get rid of it. This will be a bigger and bigger and bigger deal as people realize it. Again, if this is impacting your business, look at your product mix. If you're a retailer, again, can you shift to medicinal products like things like what we do at TrueMedX? And there's other companies that do what we do. Or is it going to knock you out of business? If it's going to knock you out of business, I would suggest that we all look to class action lawsuits. Again, there's going to be some attorneys likely that pop these up because this is going to impact a lot of people. I mean, this is a pretty good size business. So anyway, we will leave it there for right now. Again, was unforeseen, I would say, by many of the people that are working on the back end on a federal hemp and cannabis policy. This was a wrench thrown in the machinery that no one really saw coming. So anyway, if you have questions, kind of ask in the thread. We'll watch the thread and we'll kind of watch for information that you guys might need or want. And we'll continue to be here as needed as a resource and as a source of information. Anyway, we'll leave it here for now and we'll see you guys later. Thanks. Bye.